Imagine you're standing in an empty train control room late at night. It's quiet until you hear the sound. Metal screaming on metal. You look up and see it on the monitor. A runaway trolley, brakes gone, flying down the track. Up ahead, 5 workers are fixing the line. They can't hear it. They can't get out of the way in time. If nothing changes, in a few seconds, all 5 will die. Your heart is pounding. Then you notice something. Next to you is a lever. If you pull it, the trolley will switch tracks. On that side track, there's 1 worker. So here is your choice. Do nothing, and 5 people die. Pull the lever, and 1 person dies. But you save the 5. Take a second and answer that in your head. Most people say they'd pull the lever. 1 life to save 5 feels like the logical choice. It's not pleasant, but the math is simple. Congratulations. You've just walked into one of the most famous thought experiments in modern philosophy, the trolley problem. First created by philosopher Philippa in the 1960s and later expanded by Judith Jarvis Thomson. Wikipedia, +2. Encyclopedia Britannica, +2. But this is where it gets interesting. Let's change just one detail. You're no longer in a control room. You're on a footbridge over the tracks, looking down at the same runaway trolley. Same 5 workers, same danger, same countdown. This time, there is no lever. The only way to stop the trolley is a person. Next to you stands a very large man, leaning on the railing. If you push him off the bridge onto the tracks, his body will stop the trolley. He will die. The 5 workers will live. Now what do? Most people who happily pulled the lever in the first story say, "No way, I'm not pushing him." Same numbers, 1 life versus 5 lives. But suddenly, the logical answer doesn't feel so logical anymore. Why? This is the heart of the trolley problem. The numbers don't change. What changes is you. In the first version, you feel like you're redirecting harm that's already happening. In the second, you feel like you are the cause of the harm. You're not just flipping a switch, you're putting your hands on a real person's back. Philosophers use these 2 reactions to talk about 2 very old ways of thinking about morality. The first way says, do whatever leads to the best outcome overall. Save the most lives. Maximize the good. This is often called a consequentialist or utilitarian way of thinking. The second way says, some actions are wrong, no matter how good the outcome looks. Killing an innocent person on purpose crosses a line you're not allowed to cross, even if it saves more people. This connects to deontological thinking, duty, rules, and moral limits. So when you pulled the lever, a little utilitarian voice in your head said, 5 lives are better than 1. Do it. And when you refused to push the man, a different voice spoke up and said, wait, I'm not going to use a person's body as a tool. That feels wrong. For a long time, philosophers argued back and forth using logic, stories, and principles. Then psychologists stepped in and asked a different question. What's going on inside the brain when we face these dilemmas? In the early 2000s, Joshua Green and his colleagues put people in brain scanners and gave them trolley-type problems. They found that when people made decisions in more impersonal cases, like flipping a switch, brain regions linked to controlled reasoning lit up more. When they faced personal cases, like pushing someone off a bridge, areas linked to strong emotion were much more active. Wikipedia +1. In simple terms, your brain has at least 2 systems arguing with each other. One is like a calculator. How many lives can we save? The other is like an alarm. This feels wrong. Don't do it. The trolley problem doesn't just test your ethics. It reveals the tug-of-war between those 2 systems. And this isn't just about trains that don't stop. Today, trolley-style thinking shows up in some very real places. Think about self-driving cars. If a collision is unavoidable, should the car protect the passenger at all costs or minimize total harm, even if that means sacrificing the person inside? Researchers at MIT's Moral Machine Project collected millions of responses from people around the world to scenarios like this and found huge cultural differences in how people answered. Wikipedia +1. Or think about healthcare. In an overwhelmed hospital, who gets the last ventilator? A young parent with kids at home? An elderly patient who arrived first? The person with the highest chance of survival? No runaway trolley.
But the structure is the same. Limited resources, lives in the balance. Someone has to choose. So what do we do with all of this? Here's the key idea I want you to walk away with. Moral dilemmas are not about finding a perfect answer. They are about discovering what you truly value when perfection isn't an option.
The trolley problem is like a mirror. It doesn't judge you. It shows you you. If you instantly pull the lever, maybe you deeply believe in outcomes. Save as many lives as possible, even if it feels uncomfortable. If you freeze at the idea of pushing someone, maybe you deeply believe in certain lines that should never be crossed, no matter what. Most of us don't live at the extreme of one philosophy. We're a mix. We want good outcomes and we want to keep our hands clean. We want to save as many people as possible, and we want to respect each person as more than a number in an equation. The danger is not in being utilitarian or rule-based. The danger is in thinking we're obviously right without ever examining the story we're telling ourselves. So how do we use this in real life where there are no trolleys, no levers, and no pause button? Let me offer you 3 questions you can ask yourself the next time you face a hard moral choice. Question 1. Who am I counting, and who am I not counting? When we make quick decisions, we usually see the people closest to us and overlook the rest. In trolley terms, we notice the one person on our track and forget the 5 further down, or sometimes the opposite. So pause and ask, who benefits from this choice? Who pays the price? Is anyone invisible in this decision? Question 2. What exactly am I doing to this person? Not just what happens, but what am I doing? Am I harming someone directly, using them as a tool to reach another goal? Or am I redirecting a harm that already exists, trying to reduce the damage? That distinction is at the core of debates about the trolley problem and the principle of double effect. You might still choose the same action, but now it's a conscious choice, not an accident. Question 3. If everyone acted like this, what kind of world would we be building? This zooms you out. It's no longer just what helps me right now or what feels okay this moment. It's would I want to live in a world where this is normal? A world where we always sacrifice the few, for the many can become cold and cruel. A world where we never take responsibility because it's not technically my fault can become equally dangerous. We're always shaping the moral culture around us, one small decision at a time. When you put these 3 questions together, something powerful happens. You stop asking, what would a perfect person do in this impossible situation? And you start asking, what does this situation reveal about the kind of person I'm becoming? That's a very different level of honesty. The trolley problem has been criticized for being unrealistic, too extreme, too far from everyday life. And that's fair. Most of us will never stand in front of a lever that decides who lives and who dies. But all of us will face smaller versions of the same structure. Do I speak up for someone being treated unfairly, even if it costs me socially? Do I tell the truth, knowing it might hurt one person now but prevent bigger harm later? Do I protect my comfort, or do I risk it to help more people in the long run? Every time you face one of these, you are at your own metaphorical set of tracks. You may not hear the screech of a trolley, but there is still motion, momentum, and a limited window to decide. Here's my challenge to you. The next time you watch a video about a scandal, a controversial law, a medical decision, or an AI system making choices, don't just ask, are they right or wrong? Ask, what would I do if I were the one at the lever? What would I be willing to do to save lives? What lines would I refuse to cross, even if crossing them looked efficient? When you sit with those questions, you're not just passing judgment on some hypothetical story.
You're building your own moral reflexes for the real world.
No right answers. Only revealing ones. The trolley problem doesn't tell you who you must be. It simply asks, when the tracks split and someone has to decide, who are you really when every option hurts? And if you don't fully like the answer you see in yourself today, that's not a verdict. That's an invitation. An invitation to slow down, to think deeper, to listen to both the calculator and the alarm in your own mind, and to start becoming the kind of person who can face impossible choices with a little more clarity, a little more courage, and a lot more honesty.